So I had about 2 years experience in film and TV before I decided to do a degree, but for me the most important thing was I had no experience in using any sort of equipment at all. So I really wanted to challenge myself by coming to university and just have all of those opportunities available to me to be able to get to grips with any sort of equipment that I really wanted to use. And also I think university gives you the opportunity to experience certain types of work experience and placements that you wouldn't otherwise get. You make such great contacts that stay in your life even when you're still working. When I was in my 3rd year of studying at university, I really started looking towards the future and thinking about how I was going to make this kind of break into the industry and move into working full time. So I decided that what was really important to me was to actually gain some work experience alongside my 3rd year that I could do on a weekly basis, somewhere that I would be in all the time and kind of learning and absorbing that atmosphere 1 day a week. So I tried to get work experience with so many places. I think I must have emailed, I don't even know how many companies across Bristol and Bath with no response. And actually it happened to be somebody within the industry that saw one of my university films, really liked it, invited me along for a placement day with BBC and then recommended me to the company where I got 1 day a week work experience, and then I was employed full time when I finished my degree.
The difficulty of working in TV is there isn't really a structure of training and learning. You're very much on your own, I think. If you can find a mentor, you can find someone that will guide you and hold you and nurture you, brilliant. But there aren't many there because everybody's trying to make their own career. And especially in the increasingly freelance world, you're in here for a bit, you're in there for a bit, you're in a different company for a bit, you're in different cities. So that, I think, is a difficult bit. You're kind of finding your own way far too much of the time, I think, compared to many other industries. And I've worked in other sectors, and there is sort of mentorship. So there used to be traineeships, but they're few and far between. And so you have to make your own way. And I think that can leave people feeling a little bit lost. And I think that is a challenge you're going to face in most sort of job titles in the sector.
In terms of those that are graduating and entering the job market, I think there is lots of confusing advice out there. So I think everyone has to take themselves, as who they are rather than following all the rules of job hunting. My biggest piece of advice to anybody is, a graduate or not, know who you are. Know what floats your boat. Don't spend time or trying to do a job or looking for a job when you won't be good at it because you don't enjoy it. So the first to do for any graduate or school leaver that's straight entering the world of work, do some sort of personality profile. Recognise your strengths and let's try and avoid some of those weaknesses.
If I was a student now, what I would do is, what TV do you like? Find out who makes that TV, contact them, know their track record, go onto IMDb, see what the filmmakers have made in that company, do your homework, so when you show up, the first thing they ask is, do you know what we make? And I've had this where a student goes like, oh yeah, I haven't, yeah, and you may as well literally walk out the door now. So do your preparation, do your research, work hard, don't give up, and make sure that you turn up on time, that you're charming, and that you're interested.
The attributes that we're looking for in ex-students and graduates and people coming to work with us, the biggest single thing is attitude, actually. Attitude, obviously people need to have some knowledge, and technical skills are a big bonus. But having the right attitude, people who will be able to jump in and say, how can I help? How can I help on a job? So we usually will get someone in who we've not worked with before. I believe in taking a limited number of risks on any one job. So let's say we've got one person in who we haven't worked with before. What would impress me is if a problem arises and they've already thought about, spotted it, got a solution or a suggestion at an appropriate time. So someone with a can-do attitude. I mean, on the technical front, if somebody knows their way from one end of a camera to the other, if somebody can edit, if somebody can do any of these things, then that's really helpful. But attitude is by far the biggest thing I think that is important.
What advice would I give a student who wants to get involved with grading or have a career in post-production? Probably the first thing is to realise that when we consider post, we think of it as at the end of a process. Post-production starts at the very beginning. It starts with the organisation. It starts with the media management. It starts with the structure. It starts with the acquisition. So I would advise you to become really methodical and ordered in how you store and create and keep files in the correct places. Thinking about naming conventions, thinking about folders within folders, making things so easy to find that you can never make a mistake. So the first part advice I would give is make sure that you live by a code of order and rules in the media management of your production, because everyone's been in a situation where they've been in an edit suite and things go offline. It's like, oh my God, where's that gone? You know, you need to be able to track and trace where your media is at all times. It's really, really important. So make sure you're methodical in what you do. Make sure you have multiple backups of your media, cloned correctly, not copied, cloned. And that will give you a great springboard into a great post-production career.
From my experience coming into TV from a working class background, it was a real asset when I was doing stuff like going out and getting contributors, going to towns and cities all around the UK and trying to get people's trust for filming. So absolutely having that experience, that lived experience, was really useful in my editorial work, but actually coming into the industry and having not gone to private school, not having connections, did make it harder at the start because there were less people that I knew who could help me, and I had to make it on my own, and I didn't have a lot of support, whether it's financial or whatever it is, to do the things that often you need to do, like lots of unpaid work experience, or go to lots and lots of social events and buy lots of drinks. You know, people coming from less affluent backgrounds into TV have so much to offer because of all their different experiences, and TV is made good by that diversity of opinion and that diversity of experience.
All jobs have levels of difficulty, and I think for me, the actual job itself isn't necessarily difficult. There can be difficult moments. Usually it's time restraints, you know, meeting deadlines that will create pressure and can make things difficult in an edit environment. But actually the hardest thing in editing, the most difficult thing, is probably just getting in the first place, because it is quite a sort of still a sort of strange job. Working in television isn't your sort of everyday job, and then being an editor obviously is quite niche, and making the transitions and the stepping stones between each part of becoming an editor, starting as a runner like everybody does, assistant, you know, edit assistant, and to an editor, that's the difficult stuff. The rest is nothing especially difficult.
So my advice for students or graduates, anybody who's coming into the world of work, would be, a lot of it's about stage time. It's about actually having hours on the job. It's like those early days. I didn't intend to sort of become an editor, but I had to achieve a goal. I had to do something. So, but it's, you know, it's the 10,000 hours, isn't it? So even though you might be having to be skilled in lots of different areas, at the end of the day, all those areas are geared towards storytelling of one kind or another, and getting hours on the job is what it's all about. So, you know, it's cliched and everybody says it, but get out there and do it. You know, have some ideas and get there and do them and put them into practice. Don't wait for things to happen. Start learning your craft either on the job or, you know, through education and beyond, but getting that practical hands-on experience, trying to solve problems, is the best thing that anybody can do, really.
To make the best documentary, the first thing you do is put the camera down and go and meet the people, get to know them, win them over, gain their trust. I've always done that without a camera. I've spent weeks on location just getting to know people, and that they, in the end, they buy into your idea and how you want to make it. You'll meet people like, well, it could be the cleaner, it could be a midwife, it could be a consultant, it could be a paediatrician, it could be somebody who's a porter. But some of those people will suddenly stand out and sing and give you a whole new background to where you can focus your filming. So always go in hard but gentle, and meet the people and get them to win that trust. Because if you haven't got trust, you ain't going to get a film, trust me. I've seen it happen so many times where people have gone in and hosed with their camera, upset people, people get confused about who you are, what you're doing, and if you do that, you might get kicked out of the building and you've got no film, and you've got to go to your channel and say, I'm really sorry, we can't make this anymore. So never, ever, ever underestimate how important it is to win people's trust.
I've always had this thought of sound design and how to layer sound and how to get a scene working for me with sound. And it was recently that legendary sound designer Richard King summed it up beautifully. And he said, have you ever gone to and viewed something beautiful and you've tried to take a picture of it and it doesn't look beautiful? He said, you go to with the 4 heads, the president's heads, yeah? And you look at it and it's awe-inspiring, it's beautiful. And then you take a photo and it's just rocks. And that's because our eyes, our body, our eyes and ears have this amazing way of filtering out, of selectively sort of zooming and, not zooming, but focusing on things. Our ears do that too. So we walk into a crowded cafe, there's 100 stories going on around us. There's just a plethora of sounds that hit you, but yet you can pick out conversations and you can make your own little narrative, you can listen to people. So that's my huge tip, is try and think of that when you're going into a scene. You've got so much that you can put on there, but sometimes putting everything in a scene can make it just sound like rocks, just make it seem like the audio version of just it's a pile of rocks. You need to be able to know how to move things back and forth in a mix, give things depth, know what bits need to be higher, what bits need to be lower. You can't just blindly layer things. You've got to make them like your ears and eyes hear and see them. So that's my big tip, which was articulated perfectly. Check him out, Richard King. It's a great way of sort of closing your eyes and just trying to let the sound tell a story rather than, blindly trying to put everything that you see and just expect to hear it back all at the same volume.
I met many students over my time who consider Premiere Pro or Avid or Final Cut Pro 10 as a one-stop shop, even Resolve a one-stop shop. Now that's all well and good. And what I mean by a one-stop shop is that you can do everything in one application. If we use Premiere as an example, we can edit, we can colorize, we can do the sound, we can deliver, we can add graphics, we can do loads of things. But one piece of advice I would give you, or one tip that I would give you, is there are so many wonderful applications out there. Make sure that you don't lock yourself down to one application. One from an employability perspective, but the second is that the industry uses Resolve. The industry uses Pro Tools. The industry uses Premiere and Avid. The professional industry use all these applications, so don't lock yourself down to one thing because you're limiting your artistry, you're limiting your employability. So make sure that you start your process, you edit on Premiere, you take the grade into Resolve, you take the audio into Pro Tools. That's what the industry does. So make sure that you reflect that and do the same.
Another piece of advice is just to make sure you absolutely understand what the edit producer wants out of the film, the director, but also actually what their bosses want these days. I mean, it depends on what level we're working at here, but understanding what the vision is of all the people involved in the process. So I think if you've got that down, the big piece of advice there is ask lots of questions. If you're working with a new client, is to certainly talk to them the week before, even meet with them. So that, because obviously when you're working with somebody, it's quite an intense experience and piece of time. You want to be able to get on with them. So understanding what they want and then just having a bit of a chat and trying to find a sort of similar sort of level to work on is also really important.
My next tip is make sure you're happy to try things out and be okay with failing. You do not have to be finding the perfect job straight away. Give something a go. Go out there, earn some money and know what you're gaining from the experience. So for me, I only learnt through failing, and we have such a fear of failure these days. It's as if we don't want to get it wrong. I mean, so what? You get it wrong. What are the consequences? It is rare that the consequences are so bad. I watch the learning through my consultants, so I take people on straight from university because I believe if people have the right values, I can make them what I need in the world of recruitment. If I take somebody from the recruitment industry, they've already got sort of bad business things or things that I just don't want in my company. But I only can grow these individuals by going, you know what, make a decision, give it a whirl. Let's see what happens. And I have enough things going on in my businesses, as most businesses do, that actually if you get it wrong, it's not going to be detrimental. Okay, a customer might not love you for it, but we're grounded enough that I can pick up the phone and sort that customer out. But you know what, when people learn by failing, they never do the same thing again. So try something out, even though you know it's not the career for you. Give it a go and you'd be so surprised at what you learn from it.
The other tip I would give is planning ahead. You know, TV is the easiest job in the world. It's fun, it's great, until it goes wrong. And then it suddenly becomes stressful and hard. And that's where you earn your money. Because if you turn up and you've planned it all, it works and you have a great day, because the shooting is a culmination of all that planning and you want that to go as smoothly as possible. But if you've planned for eventuality, so at least you've thought through what would I do if this goes wrong or that goes wrong, you won't fail, and your producers and your production staff won't sort of get upset because you haven't come out with the material. There's a phrase, and I don't really like cliche phrases, but a cameraman I worked with worked in the military, and he said the phrase they got drilled into them was, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. And I was like, oh. But then actually, you know, it's cheesy, but it's so true. And I've seen that in so many productions where the person that's sort of detailed what they're going to do, mapped out what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, when something goes wrong, the rain comes or a contributor doesn't show up, they know where they can go. But if they just winged it and got there with a camera and a sound kit and to see what happens, it doesn't always go the way you want it to go. If you're ready, you can go one way or another. You're flexible and you will get what you need, or you will get something that will do the job.
Something that I've really learned throughout the course of the pandemic is how important it is within film and TV to look after your body and look after your mind. And those two things are really crucial and run parallel together as well. So whether that's if you're a camera operator, making sure you're taking care of your back and your posture, or maybe looking into counselling and kind of thinking about how you address certain situations, I think that's really useful, because it can be easy to forget that actually it's not a life and death situation, and it feels like it's all pressure and all go all the time, which is great and we love that, but also it's important to remind yourself that it is really important to take care of your health so that your body can take care of you for the rest of your career. This is something that you probably want to be working in for the rest of your life. It's a lifestyle choice. So I think it's really important, even if it's just taking 5 minutes before a shoot, to just think about what the plan is for today, get yourself into a really kind of calm headspace, and also going back over your work at the end of the day and just having a bit of a think about what areas you found difficult that day, what maybe you could have approached differently for next time. And I think it's really important to maintain that kind of really calm outlook and also just really taking care of yourself.